Well, hello my friends, it's your old pal Jordan the Lion. Today we are at the Breman Museum, Jewish History, to see the Houdini exhibit. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Alright, let's enter the Houdini exhibit. This is going on until August, so we got lucky. Yes, there is a young Harry Houdini on the left, when he was known as Eric Weiss, born in Budapest, Hungary in 1874. He wouldn't become Harry Houdini until much later, when he would take the name of one of his favorite magicians and become Harry Houdini. There's Harry's father, and there's his mother, who you can definitely tell he takes his looks after. Now, Eric Weiss would break up the tradition of 400 years of rabbis in his family, stating that his father was a rabbi in Ofen, which was now Budapest, in 1851. He had been a student of Rabbi Leopold Low, the leader of the radical Neolog movement of the Jewish Enlightenment. There's a young Eric Weiss at the age of 8 years old. Here you can see that the family left Budapest and arrived in America, New York City in 1878. They were processed through Castle Garden, the first official immigration center. After the healthy were separated from the sick and luggage was inspected, immigrants were entered Castle Garden, where their names, nationality, former residence, and intended destination were recorded. Here you can see the family would officially change the spelling of their name when they entered America from CZ to double S's. Now, this was kind of a crazy time in his life. His father left the family and headed to America in 1876 without them, under mysterious circumstances. Houdini himself didn't really know exactly, and it says Mayer was forced to flee Budapest after accidentally killing a nobleman in a duel. 2 years later, Celia Weiss, along with her 5 sons, made a 700-mile journey from Budapest to Hamburg before embarking on a journey to America. They rode steerage class aboard the SS Frisia. Eric was just 4 years old, and that would have been the boat he came in on. And then once they were in America, they moved to Appleton, Wisconsin, because Eric's father had been appointed a rabbi of the Temple Zion. And then this is a photo of Eric and his class out in front of their elementary school. And here you can see Houdini's first escape. 12 years old, he ran away from home and sent his mother a postcard telling her he would return in a year. And no exact circumstances or reasons were given. He moved to New York City, and at the age of 13, he was a messenger boy. Now here's a picture of him when he was going by the name Eric the Great, some of his earliest performances. And then he and his brother put together an act and would eventually meet Bess, who would become his wife. First year of married life. And then they became known as the Houdinis, working together. And his brother would then depart. And then this is depicting when he and Bess joined the Welsh Brothers Circus. Harry always prided himself on his physique, deeming that if the more strength he had, the better he could pull off his illusions. And that's the man he would come to idolize, and the reason that he would change his name to Houdini. Robert Houdin. That is Robert. Houdini. Now look at this fun little exhibit. Stand with your feet on the footprints facing the mirror, press the presto button. You and Houdini will magically switch places. There are my feet marked. There's the trunk with the presto button. Let's see what happens. Ta-da! And there's Houdini's scene and prop list. Now check this out, they have it very interactive, based off of a lot of his illusions. This one we'll do is the King of Handcuffs. Houdini was a master of lock mechanics. He used these cutaways to learn secrets of the handcuffs. Now that says once he started doing the handcuff act, hundreds of Houdini imitators popped up around the world trying to either steal his thunder or ride on his coattails. Now, one of the ways that they taught me in the Budapest Houdini Museum that he used to do this was that he would make his own handcuffs, and in many times he would leave a pin in there that he could slide out with his finger that no one else knew about, and that would help him take things apart. Or sometimes he would swallow a key and then get it out later. That's how he actually did that jail cell breakout. Now here they're talking about his escape, his first escape from the jail cell, and that was something that he basically put out in the public, in the media, saying that there was no jail cell that could hold him, and challenged one to try. And so they locked him up and he did escape. Says that the escape, which became an important part of his success overseas, he would wear a loincloth when he did the escape, because that way no one could accuse him of hiding a key or anything like that. And there's a jail cell door depicting that. And they don't actually go into, in this exhibit, how he did the illusions, which is proper. As a magician, you're not supposed to, but there he is behind bars. For a while, he had a contract with the Orpheum Theater, so he would travel all over the place, including Los Angeles at the Orpheum downtown that's still there. The genius of escape. And before he was known as the King of Escaping Handcuffs, he was also known for his card tricks. Oh, this exhibit actually does tell you how to do the cards. And it says by this point he had been doing that act for 30 years. Now let's wander more into the exhibit. Oh, this is when he jumps off the bridge. They put him in a packing crate in one instance and dropped him off of a bridge, and he had to escape. And he did. Now, I mentioned how much he prided himself in his physique. Look at him right there. Look at his legs. Now this photo shows the time that he was shackled and jumped off the bridge into the ice-cold water in Washington, D.C., and then came up with the shackles off. And there's Houdini performing with Jenny the elephant. Let's see if we can squeeze me into a milk bottle. They did it. Now, as I mentioned, Houdini not only liked to create his own devices to use, so he knew that how they were built, but he also liked to create his own illusions, like this one. He called this his water torture cell trick. And then, of course, Hollywood came knocking. They wanted to put Houdini in movies, and so he moved to Hollywood, and he did make movies. Early 1900s, under the direction of a fellow magician, George Méliès. One of my favorites. We actually went to his grave in Paris. He also did A Trip to the Moon. It says in the 1910s, movie theaters are quickly becoming strong competition for the vaudeville stage. Always trying to stay ahead of the times, Houdini got into the movie business. 1918, he starred in a 15-part series called The Master Mystery. Went on to have numerous feature films, including Grim Game and Terror Island. Some of his handcuffs. There's a 1902 photo of Mr. and Mrs. Harry Houdini. And there's Beatrice, 1900. And that's a love letter that Houdini wrote. There is Harry and his wife Beatrice and his mother, Celia. There you go, dog lovers. There's a photo of Harry and his Pomeranian Charlie. So there's Harry and Beatrice outside of the car, and inside the car is Sarah Bernhardt. And there's another love letter written by Harry. Now this is a wonderful original letter from his letterhead to a friend of his named Dr. J. Hyman, and he's saying in here that he remembers his birthday's coming up, so he wanted to wish him a happy birthday early, knowing it's July 31st, and he's mentioning that his mother had a monument put up in her honor. There's a copy of Harry's Society of American Magicians card. A special invitation to the Magicians Club. And sadly, he had a pretty unfortunate end, because basically what happened was that he had started to write books. He believed, or he wanted to believe, that there were ways of communicating with the dead in the afterlife, and he had been researching some of his heroes' work, and he started to publicly discredit them or kind of call them frauds. And so a lot of people in the magic community got very upset at that, and so somebody came up, and Harry had a trick where he would allow you to punch him in the stomach. He could withstand anything, but he had to know it was coming in order to do that. And in this case, somebody came up and punched him without him realizing it was about to happen, and that's what ended up killing him. And it was great that they were able and living in a time where they could document these magical feats that he was able to do. You know, here's some of his greatest accomplishments. He was able to capture all of them on film. Documentation. Well, not all of them on film, but there were photos and there were ways of the press keeping a record of what happened. He definitely took advantage of mass media. Here he was showing how he could manipulate photographs to make it look like there were spirits and things like that. Said that people were known around the world for producing spirit photographs which seemingly captured the images of spirits. Houdini was able to replicate these photos through photography as a lie, means of exposing the practice of spirit photography as a lie. I am Houdini and you are a fraud. There is much legend surrounding Houdini's untimely death on Halloween 1926, as well as his unsuccessful attempts to communicate with the living from the other side. Death was the one thing Houdini could not escape. Now what that's referring to is, he told his wife, he gave her clues and said, if there's a way to contact you after death, I will do it. And so she would hold a seance every year after his death for 10 years, waiting for him to give her that sign, say those words, and it never happened. So she believed that there was no way to do that. And she actually used to have those on one of my earliest vlogs on the top floor of the roof of the Knickerbocker Hotel in Hollywood. Now here it says the real story of Houdini's death. Houdini was performing in Montreal, Canada in 1926. Throughout his career, he had stated that he could withstand any punch to the stomach. Prior to the evening's events, a student at McGill University visited Houdini's dressing room. His name was J. Gordon Whitehead. Whitehead asked Houdini if his claim about withstanding any punch was true, and Houdini casually agreed. Without warning, Whitehead hit Houdini 4 times in the abdomen, catching Houdini off guard. Though he was in great pain, Houdini went on stage. The pain continued throughout the night, and he did not seek medical help. Now 2 days later, he finally went to a doctor, and the doctor said, well, for one thing, he had a 102-degree temperature, and they found out that he had an acute appendicitis and that he was supposed to go to the hospital and have an immediate surgery. But Houdini decided not to. He decided to keep traveling on with his tour to Detroit. And the first night of his performance, he collapsed and couldn't finish the performance, went home, went to bed. The next morning, he was in such pain that he finally went to a hospital, but it was too late. His appendix had ruptured, and he would eventually die 9 days after those punches. Doctors were unable to save him, and Harry died surrounded by his wife and brother on Halloween Day, October 31st, 1926. Houdini's funeral was held in New York with more than 2,000 mourners in attendance, and he was born in Queens, New York. Bess died in 1943, but was not allowed to be buried alongside her husband, as he had requested, because she was not of Jewish descent. And there's Bess holding one of her seances in 1936 with her business manager, Edward Saint, and on the left holding handcuffs, you can see, right there. In an effort to contact Houdini, her official name was Beatrice, but sometimes she went by Bess also. And I told you he had a way. He said that if he could communicate, there was something he would let them know. This was the envelope that had his secret code inside that he would give to his friends in case he tried to contact them after death. What a life. Definitely one of the more fascinating magicians of all time, and probably the most talked about as well. And since we are in Atlanta, they're showing here when he was here performing at the Forsyth in 1912 and 1915. He performed alongside comedians, singers, dancers, jugglers, and ventriloquists, but his ability to amaze and baffle Atlanta audiences elevated him to top billing. Well, that was an absolutely fantastic exhibit. If you're in Atlanta or in the area, make sure you come out and support this kind of thing. These are great kind of exhibits, and it really helps the museum. So we're gonna head out of here. We're gonna drive back to Alabama, go back and see the Joster. We just crossed into Alabama. Hello?
Hello!
Hi! What's up, stranger? Where you been, stranger? Did you miss me? I hear you squawking. Well, that's it, my friends. Thank you, Amelia Maria Walker and PJ Jones, for becoming my newest Patreons. And when I say that's it, I mean that's it. That's it for the trip. John and I are hopping on a plane and we are heading back to LA. So tomorrow when you watch us, we will be in Los Angeles, but we will actually have been there for about 2 or 3 weeks. I have filmed sometimes between 2 and 5 vlogs a day here. So that will give me time to go back, get refreshed, and I need it. And we will see you all tomorrow with more action in Los Angeles. Have a great night and goodbye.
Hello!